Okay, right, now I hope that this is better. So basically what just happened is I tried to do this live and for some reason the camera didn't turn round, so I was sideways for everyone, which isn't very helpful, especially when you're trying to follow a recipe that we're going to be making together. So I'm just going to get the live up on my computer screen and just double check that we're the right way round. If you can, just post a quick comment and just let me know, am I the right way round? Am I the right way round? Okay, I think that we're good to go. Yeah, I look like I'm the right way round. Let me just, yeah. So basically, I'm going to be looking at my computer, which is here, and you guys can make comments. You can ask questions. So you can either ask questions about what I'm making today or anything else. I think particularly at the moment what you guys might need is ideas for those back of the cupboard ingredients. So you know, those things that you used like once upon a time in a recipe and you never used again. It would be great if we can all start using those rather than, you know, taking resources unnecessarily from the shops, rather than having to go out more than we need to, you know. So let's get you guys using those things. So if there's anything at the back of the cupboard, let me know, and either if I've got it, I can do a recipe for you guys one day, or I can just make suggestions if I haven't got it. So Martin, thank you for joining us today. Okay, so what are we making today? This is just to go with what we're making today. Today, we are talking about tofu. Tofu, actually, okay, right, before we get into this, I just have to say one thing. There is a rainbow somewhere here today, and there will be every day, because I know that some of my friends, their kids watch as well with them. So if there are any kids out there, the first person to find the rainbow around here somewhere today is the winner. There are no prizes apart from pride, which is a great prize. So right, back to today's lesson. So we're going to be talking about tofu. Tofu gets a really bad rap because quite often, unfortunately, the first time we have it, it's not that great. But it can be absolutely amazing if you know how to treat it. So one of the comments that we had yesterday was that tofu is bland. Now I don't like to think in negative terms about any ingredient, and I'll tell you why. So ingredients all have what we call limitations and possibilities. So in the chef school, I teach my budding chefs that every ingredient has limitations and possibilities. So there are things that you can do with it, and there are things that you can't do with it. So yes, on the one hand, tofu is bland, but it also means that it doesn't have much flavour of its own that's going to get in the way of other flavours. So it means that it's a great carrier of other flavours, and it's just like a blank canvas, so you can put whatever flavours you want with it within certain, you know, there are some, you can put a lot of different ingredients in it. I have yet to come across chocolate tofu. That said, I will probably give it a go now. So, and you never know, it might work. Okay, Gloria, thank you for joining me, and Lara as well. Yes, so back to tofu. It's a really good blank canvas for you to put loads of flavour into it. It's a really good sponge, so it absorbs flavour, particularly things that are like thin liquids as well. They go right in there, but you can also do a really good coating on the outside, and that will impart a lot of flavour. So, you know, never really think that an ingredient is not good. It's just that you need to figure out the right way to use it and what it's useful for. So with tofu, you know, if it had a really strong flavour, then we'd have to really put really strong flavours with it all the time to kind of balance that out. So what is tofu? So tofu has, in the Western vegan scene, vegetarian scene, been used as a replacement for meat. It doesn't have to be a replacement for meat. And I unfortunately found that out when I went to Asia. I think I was in Chiang Mai, and I ordered a tofu soup and it had pork balls in it. pretty disgusting. And that is because in various parts of the world, tofu isn't a meat replacement, it is just another ingredient. So you will see it in dishes alongside meat and fish and, you know, all the non-vegan stuff. But it can be a really good meat replacer. But I would say, you know, you can't expect it to be exactly like meat. It isn't going to replicate a whole steak. It just isn't going to do that. So you can't really have those expectations on it. And so I think one of the ways that recipes can fail is when we're expecting it to be exactly the same as the meat alternative. And you know, it's probably not going to be like that. So, but it's really nice in its own right. And so, you know, the reason why tofu is used as a meat replacement is because you can actually make it quite chewy. But I think most people's first experience of tofu and bad tofu is that it can be, you know, a bit slimy, too oily, too greasy. It can stick to the pan when you're frying it, you know, that type of thing. Okay, so what is tofu? So tofu is basically this. These are soya beans, and these you can get very, very cheaply from Oriental supermarkets. And in the school, we actually make our own tofu, which is a great thing to be able to do. Not for everyone, you know. I'm sure that there are people who are like, no chance, but it's actually like fairly easy. So with the soya beans, we basically blend them with some water in a high-speed blender. And then we put it through a nut milk bag, which is similar to something that you would use in, say, winemaking as well, that type of thing. So you get all the bits out of it. Sue, thank you for joining me. Yeah, so then you've got soya milk. And then you boil the soya milk, or you simmer it, so that it starts to split once you put in one of these lovely, magical ingredients. So this is gypsum, and this is nigari. Both of these I got online, maybe from eBay, maybe from Amazon. eBay are a really, really great, is a really great place to buy random things like this that you wouldn't normally be able to get on the high street. So, you know, the nigiri, it's also called tofu coagulant. The gypsum, you'll probably be able to find on there, and fairly cheaply as well. eBay is also really good for things like tempeh starter, and kefir grains, and scoobies as well. Yeah, so really, and yeah, they are so much cheaper than Amazon or Planet Organic or any places like that. Okay, so once we've got our soya milk, we add one of these to it and it starts splitting. So it basically looks like, you know, when you put soya milk into tea and it curdles? We've all had that horrible moment happen to us. It basically looks like that. And so then you get basically like the curds and whey. So you get the solid bit, which you want to put through again like a muslin cloth or something like that, and then into something to set, and that's how we get tofu. So it is like a fairly easy process. I know that sounds like quite complicated, but it only sounds complicated because it's something that's unfamiliar, but it's really, really not that hard. So actually once you do see it, it's like it's not that difficult to do. So that's what tofu is. So we do have a few different types of tofu, and that can be really, really confusing for people. So we have firm tofu. This is the one that we'll be using today. And we have silken tofu. So these are the two types that are available in most of our supermarkets. It's just the firm and the silken. So the firm will be in the fridge section. The silken will be it's usually in like the Asian food section. And this is a really good brand, the Clear Spring one. It's very, very close to freshly made silken tofu. So if you've ever had that, I used to have it at Petaling Street Market when I lived in Kuala Lumpur, and it was, oh my God, it was so divine. So you go to this stall and they would have freshly made silken tofu that they'd just scoop out of a barrel. It's still warm, and then they'd pour sugar syrup, brown sugar syrup on top of it, and oh, it's heavenly, really, really heavenly. And there's one place I think called in Malaysia where they put ginger with it as well, which is divine. So you know, this is like more generally used for puddings, but there are other ways that you can use it, which I'll come on to in a second. But just to clarify, we have firm here and we have silken here. Usually these are the two that you only find in Western supermarkets. Now you go into Asian supermarkets or Asian food shops and you will find other variations on this. So, and this is my word of warning, because what you will find is silken tofu that is either soft or firm. And some people will think that the silken firm tofu is firm tofu, is this stuff, and it's not. It's not. So it will still be a bit like blancmange-like. So just beware. With this one, the silken tofu, there is soft and there is firm when you go into the more specialist shops and the Asian shops. With this one, you will find, it will say firm, but it might also say soft, firm, or extra firm. I know, it's confusing. It's confusing. So, but if you go to supermarkets, usually it's the firm and the silken that you've got. So that's like not too confusing. Okay, so now what recipes are they used for? So this type of firm tofu, it's really great at using for things like satay skewers. Really nice recipe. You can also use it for scrambled tofu as well, but I've also used this one for scrambled tofu as well, because you know I find that this one on its own can be a bit too dry, and so what I've actually done with this, and we've got a recipe for this on the website, is I've mushed this up with a fork, just really roughly, and then put it with a batter with gram flour, and so what that means is that when you actually fry the tofu scramble, you get some bits that are a bit more kind of liquidy and some bits that are a bit more firm, which I think is, to my mind, more similar to scrambled egg, which is what you're going for with a recipe like that. I've also used this in things like a tikka masala, which is great, which is really great because you've got loads of flavour from that really lovely sauce that imparts into the tofu, and that's what you want. You want something that has a lot of flavour to help this, otherwise it is going to taste quite bland. So that's that. With this one, mainly I've used this for desserts. It's great for making things like tofu panna cotta, really easy recipe, again on our website. But also nowadays I mix it in with some cashew cream and make a dessert like that. So I can add berries to it, I can add cacao to it, anything like that. Makes a really lovely dessert. And the reason why I do that is because I actually find cashew cream and cashew based desserts, cashew like sour cream for example, like far too heavy, really far too heavy and far too dense for me. It doesn't have a lightness to it, but this balances that out, so I also use it in dishes like that. There is a dish in Japan which is literally just a fresh block of tofu with some tamari, which is a type of soy sauce, on top of it with spring onion, garlic, ginger, some chilies, and that's it. And it is really very nice, really very nice. But I would say that isn't a great recipe for someone who is just coming to silken tofu, because really like the texture and the flavour, it can seem quite unusual and quite weird to many people. Okay, Rob! Hey, Lou! Hello from Wolverhampton. Been buying extra firm silken tofu and wondering why it's so soft, so thanks for explaining. No problem at all. It is really confusing, and it's really kind of like disappointing. But with that silken tofu you bought, Rob, you can make some great desserts with it, and you can make some cheating desserts with it. So I think tomorrow feels like a cheating dessert day, so let's do some recipes on that tomorrow. So basically those desserts are my emergency desserts, so it's whatever I have in the cupboard I can kind of like piece together and make some semblance of a healthy treat, and I think we could all do with that at the moment. Okay, right, so you may have seen that some recipes with tofu ask you to put it in the tofu press. We have a tofu press here from Tofuture. So basically, you put, let me get the tofu out. You put the tofu into here, you put this on top, and then you try and squidge it down. Now you can see immediately the problem with this. Tofu comes in all shapes and sizes, like all of us do. And so it doesn't necessarily, you know, that's not gonna work. That's just not gonna work. So we have to like cut it down and then press it, and then you'll get a lot more water out. With this one, you don't really need to press it. This is a great product, you know, because of that. Now, before the days that I had one of these, which by the way, the lovely guys at Tofu gave me, I had a poor man's tofu press, which was this. So basically, we've got our 2 chopping boards here and a load of elastic bands. Prior to this, I would do what most people used to do, which was put the tofu between a board and balance, like, you know, all manner of things on it, which didn't. Right. Sorry about that. My sister was calling. Right, there you are. Okay, so as I was saying, am I a bit wonky now? There we go. Right. As I was saying, yeah, it's a bit dangerous to put cans and stuff like that on top of there. So I actually came up with this method of 2 boards and then a load of elastic bands, you know, around like this end and then this end. And that works really, really well. But what you want to do, sorry, I should have mentioned, what you want to do before that is just wrap it in a tea towel. And then in here, and then you'll press it, because you want all that water to come out, because the more water we can get to come out, the more liquid we can put in, basically. So the more flavour we can get to go into the tofu. Okay, so oh, hello Diane. Oh, thank you for joining me, and Malcolm. No worries. So we're just about to get going on the recipe. I hope you guys can see me okay, because I did just have to turn the phone around for a second. Yeah, you can. So literally, I'm just cutting that open and taking it out. And with this one, you know, there was some water that came out of it, but not much more. Like, compared to other tofus, like, that isn't much water coming out at all. It is, you know, really quite tight and firm. So with this one, I don't even bother putting it in a tea towel or anything like that. I just leave it as it is. Okay. And so the recipe is really, really super simple. Literally, it's just our block of tofu, and so this is the one that I've got, and this is 280 grams. So if you're going to go by any recipe with tofu, you need to know what the grams is, because one box of tofu, well, is different depending on the make. So we're just going to cut it up into pieces, and if you're not very good at cutting things evenly, which is difficult, it is really difficult, I know. So what I would do in that instance is cut it in half. This way, cut it in half that way, and then see, like, you know, do you want your pieces any smaller than this or any bigger than this? So basically, like, if you want it to be really chewy, then, you know, you can get small pieces to be really incredibly chewy quite quickly. Okay, so we're going to go for pieces like that, and we're going to just pop them into our Tupperware. And you'll see with that, I didn't use a chopping board. I just literally did it on the lid, and that just like saves with a bit of washing up, which we could all do with. Okay. And then we have 3 tablespoons of tamari, or soy sauce. So I'm gluten-free, so I don't have soy sauce, I have tamari. And one word of warning with your tamari, it really depends on the make as to how strong it is, because I know that with the tamari from Clear Spring, it can be very concentrated, whereas this one isn't so much. And the way that you can find that out without tasting it is just have a look on the back and see in the ingredients list, the first ingredient here is water rather than soybeans. So soybeans is second, and I think that in the Clear Spring one, the first ingredient is soybeans, and that's because it has to go in order of the ingredient that there is the most of, basically. So that's how you can tell. And now we'll just add 1 tablespoon of oil into here. And so today I'm going to be using toasted sesame oil because what I'm going to be making is more kind of Asian influence, so the flavours will go together really, really well. And so now we just need to pop the lid on very securely. Gloria says, like Battenberg cake. What was that in reference to? What did I do? Oh yes, yeah. The cutting of the pieces. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So you can just turn this over, and this is why you need a good bit of Tupperware for this, something that isn't going to leak, and just make sure that all of these are covered very well, and you can just leave it for about 10 minutes. So there are some recipes that tell you to leave tofu in a marinade for like hours, but with this, like, you really don't need it. That's all we need, like, for about 10 minutes. So cutting, yes, yeah, exactly, got it, Gloria. And David, hi, glad I can catch you live today. Woohoo for tofu. I like that. Okay, so we'll just leave that to marinate. So we've got our ingredients here. So we've got 280 grams of tofu. We've got 3 tablespoons of tamari or soya sauce, and we've got 1 tablespoon of oil. So as I said, today I'm going to be using toasted sesame oil. If you don't want that kind of like Asian flavours, then you can just use something like a sunflower oil. If you don't want to use tamari, if you don't use soya sauce, then you could use something like, I've even taken yeast extract, also known as Marmite, and watered it down and used that as a marinade. That's very good because it's very meaty, very savoury. There's a product by Hodmedod's, which I absolutely love, called Fava Bean Umami Paste. Again, does exactly the same thing. You could also use like a really dark brown rice miso. The miso paste, and that will do the same job. Again, you'd have to water it down because you have to think, we've got to get this liquid inside the tofu, and so if the marinade is too thick, then it's just going to sit on the outside. We want it to go inside, so it does have to be quite thin in order to do that. So that's that. And I said here, bake, don't fry. And the reason why is because baking gives much better results. It's much more reliable. So you can fry it and you can get good results. But you have to have it at the right temperature, so it's almost like searing hot. You have to have the oil at the right temperature. You have to have like a pretty good pan so it doesn't stick to the bottom. And you do have to move quite quickly with it. And so if you're not that confident a cook, or you're not that confident in cooking tofu, then it can not go too well. So there are like so many ways that it can go wrong if you fry tofu, which is why we're going to be baking it today. Let me just have a look. Hi Julie, thank you for joining us. So I nowadays always bake it pretty much like 99% of the time. I think the other day I did try out these lovely pans. So I got these pans from Green Pan and I wanted to see what tofu was like in it, and it actually came out quite well. But these are brand new non-stick pans, so I think these are more reliable for something like that than pans that you've had for a while. Okay, so we're going to get a tray out of the oven to put this onto. So this might look a bit like overkill because it's a really big pan, but we want space for these. So we don't want them like bunched up because we want the heat to get all around them. So basically, just to recap, what we've done there is with the tamari, we've imparted loads of like meaty, savoury saltiness. And then with the oil, what that's going to do is that's going to enable it to crisp up, basically. It's really going to help with that. Okay. So, woo! Well, here we go. So you'll see that there is some liquid still there. That's got to come out onto the pan as well. All of that goes on. And then throughout the cooking process, I'll bring it out and I'll shake the tray around, and we'll try and get those other sides cooking as well. So the oven is on 200 degrees, so fairly high. We do want to kind of like sear it, and we are kind of mimicking in a way the frying process because we've got the oil in there, but we're doing it in a much more kind of like stable way. So, hello from India. Thank you for joining me. No rainbow. There is a rainbow. There is a rainbow. There is a rainbow, but you have to find it, and I'm not going to tell you where it is. So, Lucy, thank you for joining me. So Lucy, she is one of my recent students. We did have to halt the course that they were on. They were 2 classes away from finishing, which was really sad, but you know, we will get to do their student-led supper club, but at another time. So, and by the way, Lucy, you should really check out her art. She is, yeah, she has the most beautiful illustrations, and she can actually illustrate plating of food, which is such an amazing skill because it's really hard. So with the tofu that I'm making today, I'm just going to make something really quick to go with it, with really simple things that we've got around the kitchen. So I've already boiled just some brown rice. There's some brown rice in there. So when I cook rice, I do 1 part rice to 1 part water. That's it, and I eyeball it. So I've got to know, you know, how much water, just by practice. But let me just tell you that, guys, once upon a time, I used to burn rice. I did. I didn't know how to cook for like the first 20 years of my life. I didn't know how to cook, and I used to burn rice all the time, and you know, it wasn't great, but I fell in love with it, and I just decided to teach myself, and I made a lot of mistakes. And I can tell you now that is the best way to learn, is to make mistakes and pick yourself up again, and you know, make it again, learn from your mistakes, and just keep on trying. So we've got some rice in there, and then we're going to fry some lovely red onions. And whilst I'm doing that, you guys can... Karen, you got it! Yes. This is my rainbow today. So yeah, lovely happy rainbow. So now we're going to fry some lovely red onions, and the reason why I want to do the red onions is because the sweetness of them is going to really complement the savouriness of the tofu. So when we're talking about what makes a good dish, you don't have to go to loads of effort and put loads of different ingredients in a dish to make it nice. The main thing is balance, and Lucy will attest to this. We talk about balance all the time in the school. You know, the balance of flavours. That's really what makes an accomplished dish, because you'll see some amazing recipes from accomplished chefs that really don't have many ingredients at all, and it's more about knowing what flavours go well together, learning about the different tastes, so you know, umami, sour, bitter, salty, sweet, and what are the different elements of a dish that represent all those different tastes, and how do they balance each other out. So on here I've just popped some sesame seeds, so again, you know, something that isn't too weird and random, something that a lot of you will hopefully have in your kitchen cupboards. And so I love adding the sesame seeds to rice because it just makes it a bit more interesting, basically, and it has umami in it. So umami is something that we talk a lot about at the school, because apparently it's one of the reasons why some people feel that they can't carry on being vegan or vegetarian is because they really miss that umami taste. So any way that we can get that into our recipes is great. And one of the ways that we can do that is by toasting seeds. And of course, they're really, really healthy for you as well. So please do ask questions. Any questions about food that you've got, or suggestions for future recipes that I could make for you. Any ingredients that you have in the back of your cupboard that you don't know what to do with. That's always a good one, especially for now. Any tips that you want on, how to make more of the food that you've got at home, let me know. Paul asks, Gloria said, what is umami? So, when it comes to taste, depending on who you listen to, there are either 5 or 6 different tastes. So they are sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. You can also have pungent as well. That might be the optional kind of like 6th one. And so umami is basically when there is glutamate in an ingredient in a dish, and that creates a certain it triggers like a certain response in our mouth. But what is at the end of the rainbow? Yes, sunflower seeds will work as well. What is at the end of the rainbow? Well, at the end of the rainbow was just like 2 dots. Their eyes that I made into, so it's a smiley face. So, so with umami, it basically means that a dish, it feels a bit more kind of rounded, if that makes sense. It has that savouriness to it. So umami ingredients are things, vegan umami ingredients are things like mushrooms, and tamari is a really good example. Balsamic vinegar. Balsamic vinegar is actually a great one because it has multiple tastes in it. So it has umami, but it also has sweet, and it also has sour. That's a great ingredient to use, and I absolutely love some good balsamic vinegar. So you're late. Well, it's okay if you are a bit late because you can catch up. Woo. Okay. Right, so if you can see, I'm just shaking the pan, and that's making some of them turn over. Some of them need a little bit of a helping hand. Okay, so you will hear my alarm going off, my fire alarm going off. Just pop that back in there. Let me just go and turn that off. Oh, it's off. Okay, so we have the craziest smoke alarm here that really it just goes off when we make toast, but it doesn't seem to go off when I smoke food. So I often smoke food, and I quite like doing that, but it doesn't react to that at all. So I'm not sure how good it will be actually as a smoke alarm. Yes, so we were talking at umami. Yeah, umami is really, really one of the most important flavours. And as I was saying, mushrooms are a really great example of umami. Toasted seeds, toasted nuts as well. Anything with that kind of like savouriness. Fermented foods as well, they have a lot of umami in them. So any way that I can impart that into dishes is always a good thing. Okay, catch up on the recordings. Yes, exactly. Sorry, did not catch vinegar. What? Or was that me talking about balsamic vinegar? Yes, I was just talking about ingredients that have umami in them. And so one of the great things about balsamic vinegar is that it doesn't just have, sorry, let me just turn that off. It doesn't just have umami in it, but it also has sweet and sour as well. Okay, so I'm just going to slice these up, and then we'll start frying them. I'm going to continue frying them in some sesame seed oil. And so this isn't going to take that long, and also, you know, it's a fairly kind of easy, cheap dish to make. Yeah, there we go. And so if any of you guys want to come in and join the community hub, it's a Facebook group that we've literally just set up just so that we can connect with everyone a bit more. Oh, Corrado, one of my graduates has joined. Okay, so we can just pop a bit of oil in here. Doesn't have to be a huge amount. One of my tips for not using too much oil is if it dries out, or once the oil dries out, you can just add splashes of water, just so that, you know, it doesn't burn, but then you limit the amount of oil that you've got in there. So we're just going to let that fry for a few minutes. And so, you know, this is again going to be like a really good example of balance of flavour, because we've got the sweetness, but hopefully we can get a bit of caramelisation going on, which will add some bitterness to it as well, and that will be like a really lovely contrast. Yes, balsamic, yeah, we were talking about balsamic. Really, really, really big fan of balsamic. In fact, the last holiday I went on was to Modena, just so that I could go to a balsamic farm. Okay, so we're kind of like pretty much done. We're just waiting for the tofu to cook, but it actually doesn't take very long at all, so we'll have another look at it. Oh, can you see? So basically, the more chewy that you want it to be, the longer you cook it. Once again, it's going off. So, yeah, so as I was saying, the more meaty you want it to be, the more chewy, then just cook it for longer. Just keep it going. Then just keep checking on it intermittently every, 10 minutes or so. Maybe not even that, actually. I would say 5 minutes. About every 5 minutes, just check on it. Give it a good shake so it turns over. Yeah, and so this is some that I made earlier. So these are actually smaller pieces. And these are even really lovely cold, just added to salads to make a salad like more hearty. I think we're all going to start thinking about the salads pretty soon as the weather's getting nicer. So this is a really good addition to be able to eat a salad, something that's really fresh, but has a bit more flavour to it, and it's going to keep you fuller for longer. So I'm just going to add these here. And I've got my brown rice here. We'll add our sesame seeds in there, and I'll get a bit of salt. And give it a really good mix. And plate. Just make sure that is really well fried, and we want the red onions to be really nice and soft, a little bit charred. Elisa, hello from Germany. How hot is your oven? So it's 200 degrees. 200 degrees. That's usually, my go-to temperature for things that are savoury. Anything that, is maybe where you need it to rise, then I do like 180. But, I usually don't deviate from that. And that's just because, working in a professional kitchen, everyone was using the oven, so you generally had to have them all set at 200 degrees. and just kind of like work with it. So, okay, so just to recap, we talked about the difference between different tofus and what they're good for. So just remember that you can watch this video back and you can see our chat about that. You can also ask questions afterwards. So even after this is finished, you can ask questions, that's absolutely fine. With the tofu, literally, oh, it's a good splash there. With the tofu, literally we just cut it up. We didn't even bother squeezing it. We just added the 3 tablespoons of tamari, the 1 tablespoon of the sesame oil, mixed all that in, waited 10 minutes, and then baked it. So we bake, we don't fry. Okay. And so here is our lovely lunch for today. And something like this really does feel to me like it's like a cheeky takeaway, but I actually know that it's all really, really healthy and really lovely. So please do let me know what recipes you want me to make, what back of the kitchen cupboard ingredients you've got that you have no idea what to do with, and we'll try and help you out with those things. I will be sharing a lot of recipes that are easier to do, that you don't need specialist ingredients or anything like that, because I know that that's going to be a struggle for people to get at the moment. But yeah, let me know your suggestions and have a lovely day.